The thing about all data-driven analytics is that it's either a compliance model where you just, okay, are we meeting the kind of the benchmarks, or there's an aspect of understanding development, and that's where I would say smart curriculum sits. We are working to build the understanding of curriculum leaders about the impact of the decisions that they're making. So it's not just an arbitrary, I want more classes, I want smaller classes to do X, Y, and Z. It's strategically for benefit of these learners, we need to do something. Or what are we doing about, growing that narrative? It's not condescending to say that we have the understanding and we're going to give you the understanding. I would suggest that in the system, particularly in a system that's growing younger leaders that are coming through the system, we need to see the implications of the decisions we've made. There's an adage within the education world that every 10 years we see the cycle of things coming back. I've been involved in education for nearly 40 years, and you kind of see things revisiting over time. One of the things that I would suggest that we are able to do within Smart Curriculum is to say, well, look, okay, let's set aside those things that were going on in that cyclical approach that haven't worked. Things that I was involved in 30 years ago, I see them coming back. Now, it's because they're sparked by an idea, but it's not necessarily that they're not effective. The context needs to be understood, the situation that we're working in needs to be understood. But in this situation, what would be the best thing, in terms of change and development that would be right for these learners? The one thing that we do is to bring all of that understanding through smart curriculum analytics to it. But also, it isn't just about, if I've got the analytics, is that it? We need to develop the conversation. So there's very much a coaching model that goes alongside it. You ask, how do we achieve it? Well, we do it through webinars. We do it through individual contact and coaching programs. I worked with two particular schools around the London area, one North London, one West London, where they were looking at a particular Key Stage 4 strategy. It was a fairly innovative, it was a well-publicized strategy, but two schools had two completely different responses. In one school, it was immensely effective. In the other school, it was devastatingly poor. It resulted in the school being inadequate, and it failed completely. I'm not going to go into the detail of what it was, but I had other schools around the area asking me, Chris, should we do this strategy? And I said to all of them as I was coaching the leaders, my challenge to you would be, go to the two schools with their permission, go and have a look and ask the questions about what made it effective and what made it ineffective. They looked at both of them, and at the end of the conversation, they said, I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. We won't go there. But it was because they understood that there was more to the strategy than just simply doing this thing. Actually, what they learned in it was the culture of leadership that was created in the school that made the effect in the school that was positive. It wasn't the strategy itself. It was the fact that the leaders had a very unified approach. They created a culture of learning, and they were doing, actually, it wouldn't have mattered what they did. The strategy itself wasn't the success. It was the fact that they'd created a culture of leadership and the dynamics of learning, which mattered to that school. The other school that was so ineffectual, they hadn't got that. They just used the technique without all of that other work. And so that made it really interesting. And that's why I say analytics isn't enough. Gimmicks aren't enough. We need more understanding and leadership. So smart curriculum, what do? We bring that understanding. That's why it's smart. We need to understand what we're doing at greater depth and see its implications.